The plight of children of African descent came into the spotlight at the 77th General Assembly of the United Nations. Of interest closer to home, the session was led by Dr Catherine Namakula, who is a senior lecturer of public law at the University of the Free State. Some of the issues they were discussing at the meeting included conflicts of law concerning children of African descent. Dr Namakula joins me now for an update and a conversation about the report that they put together. Dr Namakula, good evening, and thank you for talking to me. So this is a report that you put together as a panel of experts on people of African descent, and it was prepared for the UN General Assembly, and it looked specifically at the plight of children of African descent in other regions of the world. It doesn't make for good reading, does it?
Absolutely, Tulani. We're absolutely disappointed. I would want, first of all, to greet our viewers and thank you for the opportunity to dialogue with a working group of experts on people of African descent. And maybe just to mention, this is a special procedure of the Human Rights Council that studies the human rights situation of people of African descent worldwide and feeds into the dialogue of the Council with its findings and recommendations. And it was established in 2002 following the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Program of Action in 2000. Is the most comprehensive framework against racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and other forms of intolerances. The working group has been in operation for the last 20 years, and we conduct country visits among various countries in the diaspora, undertake consultations on thematic concerns of people of African descent, and address communications that detail the human rights violations by engaging states that are concerned and stakeholders directly. And of course, as you have mentioned, this year, we focused on children of African descent.
Yeah.
And of course,
in fact, in terms of what you found, I saw one summary of yours that says, basically in many regions of the world, children of African descent are not even allowed to be children. And part of it, the way I saw it, Dr. Namakula, talks to legacies of the slave trade, colonialism, and apartheid and the likes, but with current discrimination impacting on the ability of children of African descent to actually just be children.
Exactly, Tulani. Children of African descent are not regarded as humanity owes the best it has to give to all children, irrespective of their racial identity. It is also expected at this stage, with the global commitment to anti-discrimination and racism, that children of African descent are humanity's opportunity to end centuries of marginalization of people of African descent. But as you have noted, that is not the case. We see a lot of criminalization of the racial identity of children of African descent. They are often suspected of criminal activity. They are racially profiled like adults of African descent. They are searched, they are stopped and searched for drugs. Their school bags are searched. And in schools actually call upon the police to engage criminal procedure for just minor misconduct that may be expected of adolescents. We also see that their families are not safe either. They are hugely policed, Tulani, and their environments where they live are also hugely policed. Parents of African descent are constantly under pressure to succumb to standards that are alien to them. So there is no conceptualization of African parenting in most of the discourse, and that leads to families being judged strictly, children being separated from their families, and eventually institutionalized. And of course, Tulani, as we noted as well, in the institutions, they're also subject to racial discrimination. So there is no safe place where children of African descent can be nurtured in an environment of understanding, because the primary unit of socialization, which is the family, is challenged. Their neighborhoods are challenged. They're in constant confrontation with the police, which is actually at conflict with them. They are led to prison at an early age. We have seen some cases as well. So there is no safe environment for them to be nurtured into responsible adults.
Sure. Were the recommendations that you put forward on how to then break this cycle and these bonds and these chains that tie back children of African descent who find themselves in various regions of the world today, some by accident or, by design of history, others by migration, by choice, and other various circumstances, refugees, etc. Were there recommendations that you are making that could break those chains between the current realities and realities of the past, such as colonialism and slavery?
Thank you, Tulani. I think one of the key recommendations relates to education. We are making a strong statement that education should now be a tool for racial justice and equality, other than its previous role of promoting racial discrimination. And of course, Tulani, I must reiterate the fact that children of African descent are streamed into areas of education or pathways that are traditionally reserved for persons of low intellect, and leading children of African descent into other work, which is manual work and less challenging as well. So we are saying as well that we have to use education to sensitize also adults against racism, against stereotypes that are sustained against people of African descent. That's the first one. The second one is for the recognition of the distinctiveness of the African family. Let it be studied as well, so that its standards and progression are integrated into social work, and that should have an understanding of the culture of people of African descent. We did make an explicit statement against the use of undignifying images of people of African descent in the media, to be used also for fundraising and marketing by organizations including the UN. That damages the brand of people of African descent. And of course, we noted that children.
Yeah. Dr. Namakula,
the people with dignity. Yeah.
The line is deteriorating, unfortunately, but I think we got as much as we could out of that conversation. I now believe that it's a conversation that you and I should have at a future date, in person, one-on-one, because this is a nuanced report, and I've had a glance at it, and I don't believe that we can do justice to it, given the challenges that we face in terms of connectivity. Dr. Catherine Namakula there, joining us from the University of the Free State, where she's senior lecturer at the Department of Law, Public Law there, is her area of specialty. But importantly, she was part of this UN panel of experts she is part of that panel of experts on people of African descent that has put together that report. So look out for that report. You can find it on the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Relief. I think it's OCHA, is it? But it's one of the agencies of the United Nations. I'm just not able to make sense of it because it's an acronym.